Mexico, and it usually happens. But anyway, so well, good thing that we were at the beginning. But basically, we work at Emalinks with being the in-country representatives for WUSARA for many years. So I've been delighted to know many of you. But the ones that don't know us, we are a business development consulting firm. We develop strategies to access into the Latin American market for food and beverage. So basically, we want to help you access the heart of Latin America, which is not only speaking Spanish or just knowing the market. It's trying to get you and see what are the dynamics behind the market, and also try to help you understanding and overcoming all the hurdles in advance, so you have a swift process getting into Mexico. It's not an easy market. And that's something that we need to really stress and talk about. But we're here to assist you. Basically, we help you with information, with contact with companies in Mexico. We we do consumer programs, and also we do trade missions, which is the bulk of activities that we do with WUSARA. Is trying to force that contact and that exposure with the Mexican importer, so you can have information about the market, and also have that information in benefit of you while getting into the market. Now, just talking about Mexico, and 6 brief points, and the flavor of the month really have been the elections in Mexico. But first, I'll start with the GDP. Basically, Mexico is a stable economy. We've been growing 2-3 points percent. It's not the potential that the country has. We should be growing 5 to 10%. But pandemic and some internal and infrastructural issues have prevented us to grow as we should. However, we have a good consistent growth. Again, we recovered from pandemic quickly, even though we had a hit in 2020. Most of the industries recovered in 21, 22, and now you see from 2023 a hunger for new business and new products. So that probably the buyers being conservative, actually that has changed, and you see more opportunities. We have a lot of investment, and we have a lot of changes in trade and consumer. But the main thing that happened last week, and probably you've seen it over the news, is that there was a landslide in Mexico. Well, yes, we had a general elections last week. The ruling party won, and he won everything. Actually, they did better than they expected. They are a center-left party that have been ruling the country for 6 years. In general, we expect a smooth transition. The only thing, what has been on the news has been that the new president, Claudia Sheinbaum, which, by the way, is the first female president in our country, in our history, she expects to follow up from controversial reforms, mostly on the judicial side, where she wants the Supreme Court to be elected. She wants to do work on pensions for government workers, and also work on non-re-election for some official judicial officers, which are minor things if you consider the overall structure of the country. But there are things that have been said for many years, and basically they're creating a bit of stir in the markets. Actually, right now, the only impact that we've seen is that the exchange rate has increased from 16.50 to 18.50. It's about 10%. And the stock market was volatile in the past week, well, the past 2 weeks since the election. But it's nothing to be really concerned. It's something that we have seen happening in every election, and actually it happens in every country. But it's more the news and the things that are happening, the things that are being said, than the actual things that have happened. One of the things, and that's something that we've said, if you want to see how the market Mexican will develop for imports, the main component that you have to check is the exchange rate, how much it has changed. The economy, the exchange, the stocks exchange, even politics, they are secondary, but the one that actually drives the market is exchange rate. We saw that in 2006, 2011, 2016, and we saw that last year. But basically, we had a very stable exchange rate. Actually, it was news to everyone. for 5 months, the exchange rate was coming down, something unheard of. And believe me, I've been, long enough to know that this was extraordinary. But it has to do with the interest rates, with the foreign investment, and the dynamics between the U.S. and Mexico. We think that there was some control from the government trying to keep it down before the election, because again, it was just automatic. Right after the election, the exchange went to 1839, which I could tell you it's high. It's a big increase to what we saw before, but it's something that the markets were expecting. Actually, we are expecting, and the analysts are expecting to have an exchange rate of 18.50 by the end of the year. So we're very close to that, and we're mid-year. So we think that the adjustment will remain. However, this creates an effect in buyers where they see a spike of 10% in exchange rate. They become again more conservative. So they're not that aggressive on, yes, let's close a deal and just let's sign now. It doesn't happen anyway, but now it will give them a couple of months so they become more educated and see how the trend goes, so they can commit to new products, which is a good opportunity, because this is when we have to start working on your strategy. So when these buyers get back to the table, and they are at the table, but when you're ready, basically you can have a more leveled meeting, and you have information as much as they will have. The other sorry about that, the other just oopsie daisy, I don't know what I did, but anyway, you'll see some notifications. Sorry about that. But the other things, is the GDP that basically has been increasing, again, consistently increasing, even though we don't see it on the percentage. You see how the economy has grown for the past 10 years. So the actual, the wealth of the country is increasing, even though we have a large medium and medium low class in Mexico. So basically, you'll see that in the country, and many of you know how the country works. Now, the inflation is another indicator that allows let us know how much the prices increase, and you can see it's very stable. So if you see the macroeconomical indicators, they're very, very stable. So we don't see a spike or change in this. And one of the highlights in this time is the interest rate that has been in record high. Again, basically influenced by the Fed interest rate. So if you loan to Mexico, to the government, they will give you more money. So 11% is very, very attractive for other, for foreign investors. So that assists in bringing more investment to the country, but also affects the credit, because the credit, the credit rate for consumers also increases. But basically, it's something that we have seen. We expect it to slowly come down to 10% by the end of the year. So again, we don't see any particular issues that could affect the market in the short or medium term. Now, this is something that some of you, especially the ones that have seen this webinars, have seen before. But the point here is that Mexico is not one country. It's not, all Mexicans are the same. Just as in America, the Americans are not the same. You have regions, and you have different economies. So in the Northwest, you'll have large distances. It says fisheries and agriculture, but on the consumer, point of view, basically you have the largest supermarkets per capita in this region. So Tijuana, which it's close to to California. I would point it out. Well, you can see where it is on the top right, top left corner of the map. Tijuana, Hermosillo are very good economic, points. Large cities, and also you have touristic destination resort areas like Rocky Point or Los Cabos in the south. You have Vallarta, you have others, but the thing here is that you have a good economic, prospect, but the distances are very high. On the red portion, you can see the north, where you will see Monterrey on the right side of the actually it's at the top of that green triangle, and you'll see Monterrey, which is the second largest city in the country, but it's the highest growing economic point in Mexico. So it's they call it the little Houston, but I think it's even larger than Houston. So you see a lot of industry, a lot of consumption. The consumption patterns are close to the ones that you see in the US. The only thing is that they have Texas right across the border. So if we want to bring products from the Western US, we have to see what we have and also have a competitive advantage, and also have the logistical side make sense so the cost is competitive. On the other side, you have a few retailers there that are based in the northern area, and I can mention HEB and Soriana. HEB, they usually look for new products, and they don't necessarily have to be from the south. They bring products that are specific and they have a competitive advantage, and they are willing to pay premium prices. They're not easy to get, but they're a good contact to, or a good prospect to start your exports into Mexico, especially in retail. I didn't mention on the other side of the border, you have Calimax, which is another retail store. So you have those two, Calimax and HEB, which could be good prospects to start exporting into Mexico. And we usually bring them to the trade mission that we do in December, where we cover Monterrey and Mexico City, and also we bring regional buyers, and we also bring Central American buyers. So that's a very good event for you to have a one-stop shop for Latin America, and that is in December, and it's organized by WUSARA. I'll give you more information about it later. Then you have the green portion where you have mostly industry and agriculture. You have most of the automotive industry there, a lot of expats, a lot of professionals, but also you have the high growing area, the high volume growing areas in that region. You have the greens or the greenhouse industries there, tomatoes, berries, greens, and that's basically the flow that goes from that green region up to Arizona, and then they cross to the western states and all across the U.S. Most of the crops that we have are counter season of what you have in the U.S. So while you grow strawberries in the summer, we do them in the winter. So that also helps to integrate the industries, and you have crews moving back and forth the states and Mexico to work on the fields and come back and provide the product year round. I know we have some wineries and wine companies, and wine in Mexico is growing, but also is growing the domestic demand. So actually you see growing regions on the orange part and on the red part. I will not go into details because I can tell you, I don't know, Paris, and God knows where that is. But basically, we are growing on that industry too, and the internal consumption is increasing as well. So that gives opportunity to bring more wines from the US, which have grown as well. The main varietals that we have in Mexico are obviously Cab. We have Nebbiolos. They're growing some Pinots. And Mexico is mostly a red wine consuming country, but the white wine is increasing as well. So the Zinfandels and the other wines that you grow in California, Oregon, or Washington, Pinot Noirs and Pinot Grigios can be integrated here too. Then in the middle of the triangle, you have Mexico City, and that's the largest consumption center. Mexico is a centralized country, so that's where you will see most of the retailers and the importers of the country. So that's our main point of focus when we bring missions, or when we send buyers to the US, because they are the ones dealing with the large retail stores or the specialized stores. So they're in Mexico City. That's another point. And again, it's I would say it's by the 43%, right in the middle. And then you have the southern states. I don't mean that they are less, but they're more on the agriculture, on cattle, and also you have the big touristic destination, obviously on Cancun, which is on the tip of that, on the top tip of the corner to the right. And I'm sorry, I don't have a pointer. Maybe I do. Give me a second. I think I have a pointer here. Let's see. I think there it is. Yeah, well, maybe. So basically, you have different regions. And again, if you want to start your business, basically you have to start with Mexico City, continue in the north. And if you're in food service, obviously you want to continue with companies that service the the Riviera or the southern part of the country here. There you go. You can see my pointer now. Good. Now, as we have different regions, if you compare, and it's hard to compare, how the regions work, but basically, if you see how the socioeconomic levels are in Mexico, you will see that the greener, the richer, and or the greener, the wealthier. I don't know how to say it properly, but we mean no harm. But you can see here how the population is distributed, and you can see that 38% of the cumulative population is middle class, and 60% is middle class or lower than middle class. So you will see that is not as evenly spread. Wealth is not evenly spread in the population. But here you will also see that you have some cities and some segments that are more keen to consume higher end products. The mass consumption products are there, but also the specialized and added value products. And this is in general, of course. You see wealthier states like Nuevo León and all these that are in green, but you will see other major cities that have that population. And obviously you have that distribution all across the country. So you may see probably Oaxaca, and you will see that you see premium stores, but also you see a more agricultural population, rural population. Here, for instance, you see that Quintana Roo, where the Riviera Maya, all the touristic destination is in yellow, but you will see that Cancun is the highest income receiver for tourism, and for US actually it's more than 70% of tourism. They go to that region. So again, a lot of contrast. So when you come to Mexico, give us a ring, and how is this portion? Is there something that we can do and see? If you go to on vacation, obviously, I remember before people said, Cancun is not Mexico. No, Cancun now is Mexico. It's a Mexico that we want, and it's a Mexico that is evolving. Some regions are not there yet. But if you go to Cancun now, to the Riviera Maya now, you can see all the supermarkets and the trade integration, as well as the consumption and the tourism in one place. And we see more and more examples of that. But again, if you go to anywhere, you will see that those supermarkets, again, premium, high end, and obviously the mass market, retail stores that you will see. And traditional trade is important too, but I'll talk about that later. Now, why is important to talk about imports in Mexico? Because basically more than half of our imports come from the States. And obviously we talk about many industries and many categories. But basically, in food and beverages, we bring most of the grains, and the imported products come from the US. And the Western US obviously provides a lot, especially in fruit and vegetables, but also on added value products. What I mean with this is that it's also a saturated market. It's not something that we just started trading with the US. Actually, we have been trading for 200 years. So there have been companies, big companies, small companies, persistent companies that have been doing business in Mexico for many, many years. So it's hard. But if you are well educated, if you know the market and you have the patience and the good product, you will have a good long-term relationship here with this market. And again, I see some of you that are successful exporters, and probably I'm repeating myself from things that we've talked before. But again, you need to have your feet in the in the ground here, know how it is, so you are as informed as your counterpart, because many of the buyers will be bilingual, have traveled to the US, and know more about the country and even your category that maybe you do, because obviously you deal with many countries. But if you want to come here, we recommend that you get really informed about this market. Now, in general, what is thought of U.S. imports? And we did a market research study about this for Gusara a couple of years. And basically, it's quality, it's consistency. What we get what we ask, what you offer is what we're gonna get. We're not gonna get something uneven. The sizes will be the same, the standard will be similar. There's a lot of credibility. The business culture, the U.S. business culture is respected here, and actually is permeating to. I hope that that's a word, to the Mexican business culture too. People getting time now. That 40 years ago didn't happen, and probably you heard stories about, oh, you closed business over tequila. That doesn't happen anymore. Actually, I don't like tequila, but and it's not the norm. I mean, you can have lunch and etc. But usually meetings and the ones that have been to the trade missions here in Mexico, or the ones that have received buyers, you see that they're very serious, formal, and to the point. So obviously, we like to develop a relationship. We like to know who we're doing business with, just as the Americans. So that's normal. How it's done, it's a bit different, but that's something that you can read and you can understand when you're here. There's a trend for organic, and not and organic one is one part, but also on the healthy side. Less processed, even with processed products. I know that's very strange, but they like more the healthy, the natural. We like to know the origin of the products. Uh, Also, that the product is available year round. And actually, I was talking to a restaurant chain last week, and they are asking about U.S. potatoes. And say, well, can you guarantee U.S. potatoes? Obviously, in general, we can, but you need to understand the supply chain of that product, particularly knowing that by July, August, depending on the crop, it may be depleted, but you need to negotiate and again understand, so you can negotiate in advance and probably have some stock so you can cover for the change of season. Those type of things are important. So especially if you have a seasonal product, is that you are able to explain your counterpart on your seasonality and also the product availability, so they can plan ahead. Because if we promise a product and you are out of your run or your stock in 2 months, they will look for something else. And also marketing, they love, and basically they respect, I won't say love, they respect US marketing. And that's something that has to be considered when bringing a new product into the market. It's not just bringing the product, because we have seen something similar. And again, your products are unique, and they have a proposal, but you need to invest so the consumer can know about it. So you need to be willing to have marketing support to that. And that is, I would say that's one of the biggest issues that we have seen with US exporters, that they don't have anything prepared on marketing support. It's not just sending brochures, it's just having something more thought out. It doesn't really have to be in Spanish, but you need to have something on marketing. Could be marketing support samples, something else that can help them to promote your product, because they're taking some risk into bringing the product in, and obviously it takes time. What are the negative implications of US products? And again, this is general. I'm not talking about specific products, but usually, the fat content and the sugar content, they have harmful additives and a lot of sugar. There's a big, I wouldn't say a crusade, but there's a big concern about sugar consumption in Mexico, and has been for many years. So basically, and I'll talk about it on the labeling for consumer products, but that's something that need to be understood. If you have saturated fats, if you have additives, how they're good or bad. I mean, we don't want to go deep into that, but we want to explain to our counterparts. It's considered as a high level, high processed foods. I don't know if the term's correct again, but again, that's something that you want to understand, or you want to explain. Yes, it may be a processed product, but you use you use natural ingredients, you use natural processes, or you are skipping one or two steps that usually the industry will have to make it more natural. One thing that we heard over time is, oh, chickens have hormones. So you get the idea what people will have. And also there's a perception that products are expensive. Basically, and they will be expensive because the product has to move from point A to point B. And just moving product from point A to point B takes money, and that will increase the cost from what you sell in the US to what you sell in Mexico. Another thing that we recommend that you mention the retail price in the US, but don't use it as a selling point because basically that will be set in their minds. If you say, oh, retail price is $4.99, well, bringing that product into Mexico will be double or 2.5 times. And pretty much is going to be difficult. We'll talk about how you can probably have more information about that later on. And I have to move faster. Now, I'll just go quick, a lot of points, but basically, there's grow in retail, and I'll just what it says here is that it has grown. We had some hits from pandemic. Actually, it has the vacancy was 10% of new plazas or new retailers. Now it came down to 8, so it's increasing. But again, basically, food, beverage, and grocery, they want to have convenience, health, and well-being. So the message also has to be around that, the well-being and the nurturing to your family or to your kids or to whomever. The major retailers are Walmart. They hold about 40% of brick and mortar retail. Amazon in Mexico is big, but you have to be careful because there are some regulations on the products that could be difficult to send into Mexico. So actually, we had a tea company, and they had some restrictions from Amazon Mexico because there was a specific regulation about that particular formula. But then you have other retail stores like Palacio de Hierro or Liverpool that are department stores. Think of Neiman Marcus or Macy's, but they are going into the gourmet section. So they have wines, they have added value products, they have groceries, they even have deli areas, and they are moving from the traditional department store to a retail store. And they're growing, and actually we are focusing on talking more to these people because they're good people. And basically, yeah, I mean, we have more again, more points of sale, and what is key is the strategic location. Again, they're opening more and more malls, and the personalized experience. And the ones who have been in Mexico, you can see these retail stores called City Market that basically are Whole Foods on steroids, where you can have a party, you can have lunch, you can do supermarket, have a coffee, have a meeting, etc., etc. And they can have, I don't know, $100 cheeses from Spain. And actually, I saw $5,000 bottle a French wine in the supermarket. So you can see that again, it's not that the country is poor or it's different, or the notion of Mexico basically goes out the window when you go to these supermarkets, because basically that's how the market is moving now. Now we're thinking, and basically it's, where to start. And again, we're trying to create curiosity here just to see how we can help you. But there are companies in here listening that are first time exporting, and they're exploring into that. They're already in the market with low sales. They want to understand more the import export requirements because they're moving to another segment. We're going to talk about import duties, the size of the market, etc. But basically, the biggest hurdle that we have we have identified for U.S. companies is focus, preparation, and understanding of the competition. Again, this is not a Friday afternoon market. You need to understand it. You need to understand the cost structure, know your market tools, and also prepare for the upcoming events. And again, Usara will help you with that. We have a couple of events planned. This is something that some of you have seen before, but I want to reinforce that the sale is basically here. So it takes time. You need to study the market, develop the relationship, go to the meetings, have that problem of buyers not answering the emails. We've seen that over and over, and basically, okay, we have to meet again, and then they will answer. But again, we see that the people actually don't answer emails in Mexico. We have to go again, and it takes time. We have a company from Washington State. It took them around 2 years to get the deal from a major retailer in Mexico. And the last 6 months, it was because the retailer didn't answer at all. And we were concerned. And out of the blue, The buyer just came, oh, I'm really sorry. We were just waiting for some authorizations and the deal is on. So basically it will take patience and time and just be there. Companies that have been with us for 3 or 4 years, at the second year they're, oh, well, I'll give it another shot. Maybe I'll try. And then they get the deal and they're recurrent companies working with us. Get feedback, and also just know the imports process. Again, it's all the way to the end, but you need to understand the imports process so you don't have surprises. Get marketing support and get feedback and get the reorder. But again, it takes from 6 months to a year. Best case scenario, we have seen it happening 3 years, 5 years. There was a time where I got a call years later, like 5 or 6 years. Oh, do you remember the company that I met in a trade mission? Yes. Well, give me their contact, and now they're doing business. So again, it takes time and a lot of tolerance to frustration, but again, it's a good market. Now, the cost, again, something that we have presented before. Here is, again, what I mentioned. You have the product value, but then you have all the duties, tariffs, maneuvers, handling costs, customs agent fee, and insurance and Mexican tax. So this can add the product 2.5 times, 2.5 times of the your ex works value. So again, the product will be definitely higher, but you need to understand your cost structure, which we will cover in the next seminar, I think. And also, once you have the cost structure, you need to see how is the market, and we will provide you tools, which basically is, just going to the retail stores and let you know where you can know about the prices, so you can compare how you're standing against the competition. You can see if you're 10%, 15% markup, it's doable. But if you're 20, 30% higher than the market, we either need to look to another niche market, or we need to review, or you need to review if there is a chance to have an exports cost, so you can be competitive, and then you can build your brand and obviously build your price up. But obviously, it takes time. Now, documentation, and again, this is an overview. We'll go in depth in the next couple of seminars. But documentations are standard to what you see exporting in other markets, basically commercial documents, importing documents. I would say the hardest to get are the phytosanitary certificate, zoosanitary certificate, which are issued by USDA, I think, the analysis certificate, which is issued by the company, and then the certificate of origin, which changed slightly from NAFTA to USMCA, or however the treaty is called this month. But basically, they're similar and they are very standard. And again, you need to prepare to have them. And then you have all the commercial documents, which are, again, are very easy to work with. I'll go a bit faster. Now, I've been talking about this. What products are people looking for? Well, healthy products, especially from the 15 to 30 year old consumer. Those are the ones, and I say 15 because that's where they're exploring. But from the 20 to the 30, I don't know how they call it. I think they're millennials now. Sorry, no, millennials was the other generation. But anyway, but again, healthier products. We are past the energy beverages. There are some in the market, but again, it's a very robust market there. It's well dominated by Coca-Cola, but the kids are looking for healthy products. Something that is very popular is ready to eat, but mostly ready to cook, things that you can enhance. Let's talk about, I don't know, general frozen ribs that you can heat and then add your barbecue sauce. Natural products, organic juices and beverages, keto diet, and low fat. There are some that are harder to get into the market, especially the ones that are already dominated by a large company. And I mentioned barbecue sauce. There are some niche retailers that are looking for barbecue sauce and other type of sauces, but you're competing against A1 or Kraft or a local producer. So just moving crystal, moving glass and moving liquids is expensive. So that can be tricky on the supply chain. On the other hand, if you have wines, well, you have the cost included into that, but then we need to obviously talk about quality and a good story to tell and some differentiated varietals to what we see in Mexico. Some challenges that we find, the categories that manage, the challenges is that retail, food service, and industrial are different buyers, different categories. So if you manage the whole and you register to a consumer-oriented trade mission, we may not cover all of them. So try to focus on a specific distribution channel. Alcoholic beverages and spirits, basically we have tariffs, we have a special tax, and we call and also a sales tax. I think rule of thumb is what you sell at your winery, it's 4 times retail price in Mexico. So again, it can turn expensive. But again, if you have a good story to tell, well, by all means. Actually, I just saw a Screaming Eagle from California in a wine store, in a wine shop 2 weeks ago. So again, people are buying good wines. But again, you need to show the value to the buyer and the sommelier, and also and in turn to the consumer, right? Generic and barbecue seasonings are hard. We have a lot of competition, and there are a lot of offering, and companies with a wide catalog, and we have them. We understand, and they're good, but you need to understand what categories you want to focus on, so you offer the whole thing, because sometimes the buyers get lost and they don't follow up. Basically, they think of these companies just as regular brokers, where I know that these companies, the international export marketing companies, are very relevant, and you are the exports arm of the US companies. But you need to have the buyer understand what you're selling and focus on some categories so they understand better. So again, I don't want to be repetitive, but I'll talk about it. Specialty retail formats with that, what is happening, or where is potential. Products that fit into the retail formats with added value experience. Again, the premium products. Convenience formats and with value for chain. This is tricky because there is potential for convenience, but they usually are price driven, and this one actually is price driven with Oxos and the 7-Elevens. But if you have something that will fit that and it's reasonable into their cost model, it could go. But I don't want to say, oh yes, convenience is growing, because it's hard to get there. Substitute items for leading brands, the Me Too's are good, but they have limited consumer loyalty. So if they give the benefit, talking about private label, or again, something similar can be a good, a good sell, but you need to build that relationship with the buyer or with the consumer. Regional retailers are developing these new categories. So those are usually overlooked. We talk about Walmart, we talk about HEB or Soriana, which are the national retailers, but these regional are starting to follow. So they may not be the high volume that Walmart has, but it may even be more convenient because the regional will not kill you with volumes and trade terms. And supply chain could be more logical from the US, and careful with the southern states. That's something that we need to be very careful, because if we have a competition, Laredo could be more reasonable for some states than others. But if we sell to the western part, obviously our states will be much, much better for them. I'll skip this. If you're interested in the retail sector, there are some sources that you can talk about, and actually we're short on time. Just look at this link, retailers.mx. They are a retail magazine, so they talk about trends. We don't endorse them, but they're good. They're good friends, and they have good information. Trade shows are recommended only if you have export strategy and a cost structure. And basically, we have ANTAD, which is right here, ANTAD, which is a large trade show that happens in March. We have a large booth, or a large segment for Gusara. We have about 10 companies there. You meet buyers. It's a big show, but we recommend it only if you have an export strategy. And we need to understand, the implication that come with it. But again, we'll cover more of this later in other seminars. Labeling in retail is very important. Basically, you need to talk about warning signs. cautionary legends and prohibition, and actually characters are prohibited. So we need to check your label and help you with that. Actually, we work with a certification company. Again, we're not related, but we can recommend you that certification company so they can check on what is needed for your packaging into Mexico. It costs, to have the label reviewed costs. And if it's your first time exporting into this market, don't change your label to Spanish yet. You will have some stickers that importer will put. It may not look the best, but it will be a good point to start, so you don't have to do the investment into labeling into Spanish. Again, start slow and small and do a step-by-step approach. But this squares is something that you will see in Mexico City. And usually when we do trade missions, we take you to supermarkets so you can see them and you can see your competition as well. And I'll move fast because we have like 5 minutes. In HRI, basically, as it said, food service dropped, but it recovered in 2021. Actually, we saw, and this is very important, we saw bigger and fewer players, but now we see new businesses entering the category. And it's a cycle. We've seen it many times. But basically, when people ask me for more distributors or more people, well, they're gone. But we're starting to see actually more in the southern part of the country that there are new importers. But again, it's more on the cycle, and it's a category food service that it's focused on cost, then differentiation, and then inconvenience. So that's something that could affect. Obviously, if you have a premium brand, we have to make it convenient and obviously give a benefit to the operator or to the importer. And there are some ways that you could do to start, evaluate training sessions, trade showcases. Actually, there's one in Cancun right now that we don't do with Busara. It's called Expotel. And that's a good show to walk because the main importers are there, and actually it's happening now. And you don't have to apply for labeling regulations. So basically it's that. And again, I think I'm done with time. Now, what can we help you? How can we help you? Basically, we can, I'm not sure if we have virtual consultations. We had them in the past, but if you need information, just contact Busara. They'll get in contact with us. We are a full-time representative, so we are able to assist you in general. We are not able to just provide you, importers lists, because we don't want just to give you the answer to it. It's not that we don't want to, but it has some work behind it. So we don't just want you to shoot emails, because obviously, sorry, not obviously, but most of the times you will be ignored. So we want to walk with you and help you with that. Now, there is a large outbound trade mission in December. I think the registration is out of the Busara website. It's called Mega Mission. And we just put it Mega Mission because we combined 4 events into one. And in 2025, we have National Retailers Trade Association show in 2025, which again, you can consider, and we have a couple of trade missions. Other resources, GAIN reports, it's GAIN, obviously it's in capital letters. They're issued by the USDA. Some price checks that you can do. And again, we can provide you with a one-pager with market overview. Again, basically, we're here to help. And if you want to open the room for questions, just let me know who's there, and we'll try to give you, I'll try to give you the best answer. And that's the presentation for today.
Great, thank you so much. I'm going to follow up with everyone with a PDF of this slide deck, and Marco's contact information will be there. Does anyone have any questions right now? You can speak up and unmute yourself, or you can write it into the chat. One of the first questions we have is, do I need to speak Spanish?
Oh, that's a good question. Not necessarily. It helps. But again, buyers of most of the categories speak English, so it's something that is not really imperative. But again, it helps. Also, if you have the couple of words that you learned in college, it's fine. But one of the things that we ask is that don't be apologetic. I don't know if that's a word, but don't feel sorry for not speaking Spanish. That's something that we have seen many times, and it kind of diminishes the relationship. It's okay that you don't speak Spanish. You're American. But again, that's something that you can probably just work, buenos dias, and that's all the Spanish that I have. Usually we have translators in our events, but yeah, it's not imperative, but it helps.
Okay, great. There's two questions in the chat. First
Sure.
one is from Mariana. Which country imports the most into Mexico?
Imports the most, well, actually, is the U.S. Is that what I'm understanding? Imports the most into Mexico.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, again, our border, I think, is one of the largest ground borders in the world. Laredo, Texas, or Laredo, Texas, Nuevo Laredo is the highest ground crossing point in the world, I think, or at least in this hemisphere. So yeah, there's a lot of trade going back and forth the states. So basically, the one by far is the U.S. In premium and gourmet products, we're getting products from Europe. We get a lot of wine from France and Spain. We get cheeses from Europe. We get fish from Norway. We get salmon from Chile. We get fruit from South America. But the biggest, the largest, come from the U.S. So we're really interconnected. I'll just quit the presentation so we can have a.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you send me another question?
Yes, the
Yeah,
next
go ahead.
question is what are typical payment terms for imports into Mexico? Letter
Ooh,
of
that's a
credit,
great.
cash on delivery, open account, question mark.
That's a good question, and I think we're gonna cover it later. Sorry for all the mess here. I'm trying to get back, but I don't know how to do it. Anyway, I'll just go back to this one. For the first operations, we recommend that you do payment in advance. They are, the importers and retailers know about this, and they're used to that. So again, we ask you to sell, but also to collect. And also, we ask you to be very careful once you get a long-term relationship. We have seen a couple of events where after 4 or 5 operations, everything runs smooth and nice. And on the sixth one, they just don't they cannot collect. So I think, even though you can do this payment in advance transactions, you can start talking to your counterpart, about credit, but find a guarantee, some guarantee, on getting payment. One of the tools that I remember in the past was very used was Exim Bank, EXIM Bank, and I've found that is not widely used now. And we had a visit from one of the states last year, and the governor, actually the lieutenant governor, was keen on promoting Exim Bank. So that you use letters of credit. They're hard to use, but at least they'll give you the guarantee on working with again with Mexican importers, and that happens in Latin America. You'll see some of this also applying for other countries in Latin America. Yes. What else?
Right. There's a few in the chat. I see someone has their hand raised. If you want to
Sure.
ask your question, go ahead.
I'll try to master this.
Yes. Just to tell and congratulate Marco for this great presentation, and hope to meet you guys soon. And wish you the best. Thank you. It was so great to meet you all.
Thank you, Jaime.
All right.
Yes.
Let's see. Sorry, some questions are coming in quick.
Sure.
What are your recommendations if we are an importer? We buy tree nuts from Mexico. I know that's a little bit different than what we were talking about, but.
Well, if you are sending product, well, okay, so USARA basically helps growers and businesses from the Western states, mostly for what we grow in the West. Having said that, if you're importing, but you're also selling to Mexico, this missions and interchange. If you're selling U.S. products and also selling to Mexico, this missions and interactions can help you also talk with growers, and the trade usually goes both ways. So the importers are usually growers as well. So if you're trying to sell to Mexico, you can talk to importers, but that can also trade and sell. But again, unfortunately, it's not the focus of what we do at USARA.
Next question is, you mentioned that there is a store called City Market, which is like Whole Foods. Will they have
Yeah.
representation of that store at the December show?
We're always trying. We hope we've had them in the past, and we're hoping to bring them again. As you know, unfortunately, with these retail chains, they change every 3 to 6 months. But yeah, we're trying to bring them into the mission, and we are bringing also importers that service that store. Again, I'm not sure if we're going to talk about it here in another seminar, but there in US, it's very common to sell to retailer directly, basically because you're local. So your contact will be the retailer. Here, most of the times you need an importer to have that discussion. So they're the middleman, but usually they're the ones servicing the retailer. And the benefit that the retailer have with these companies is that they don't have risk on inventory and they can transfer the financial charge to the importer. So it's complex there. So again, we will try to bring a City Market, but we will also try to bring importers that we will cover more ground and also will try to sell to this company.
Awesome. And just a real quick sidebar, because we have a few minutes left. Next week at the same time, Marco will be joining us again to take a further deep dive into Mexico. So if your questions don't get answered here today, definitely join us next week. So the next question is, on average, how long could it take to enter the HEB market?
Ooh, more than a year, 1 or 2
More than a
years.
year.
Yeah,
Okay.
it takes a lot of time. They are focused on quality, but they're the ones that basically take time to respond. They use reference. I saw a comment right there coming in, and they take reference to what is sold in the US, but they're separate entities. So they may talk to each other. Happens the same with Walmart, but they are different entities. So yeah, it can take time, and they take reference to what they are selling in the US.
Okay. Thank you. Next question. I know you said that. Wait, oh, here it is. How large is the dessert industry? Any
Oh.
fruit filling used? I know that you mentioned how sugar intake and things like that was a little bit of a concern.
Yeah, it's big. I think we have more sugar in our bread. The bread industry, the sweet bread is higher, but we have a lot of fillings. And basically, with the new fruit bars, well, not new, they've been in market for 15 years. But the fruit bar industry is big. You have big players like Kellogg's or Bimbo. Uh, but we will need to see what kind of filling you have. You have I forgot the name, Riches. So the big companies, the big sweet companies will be here in Mexico, but you could talk to some of them, and again, could be interesting for them to have fillings for the pies or for the fruit bars or others. But yeah, it's big, but it's I would say roughly saturated. But you could have an opportunity trying to find an alternative to their current sourcing.
Okay, great. We have a few minutes left, and there's 3 questions. So
Sure.
let's see if we can rapid fire these.
Yes.
How are commercial disputes typically handled in Mexico, and what are the legal implications for unpaid invoices? I don't know if you can
Well,
quickly
that's
answer
hard. And
that one.
again, yeah, no, we've had it a couple of times. That's very difficult. Uh, Unfortunately, the commercial codes and the regulations are not similar. So if you have an issue in the US, it's going to be very hard to collect to have it in Mexico. Uh, uh, Usually, it's having somebody that can help you do that, but unfortunately, it's more on goodwill that actually have a legal traction on that. What you could do is have Mexican, I don't know how you say pagaré. There's a word, there's a document, it's a debt. But basically, it's hard. So those disputes are usually difficult to collect. It's more, unfortunately, it's hard to just tell everybody that they didn't pay you. And again, we've had it before, but it's just trying, at some point we can follow up, but there's not much we can do. We had it twice and it was hard. And at some point we saw the companies some years later figuring it out and then just continuing doing business. But again, it's a very difficult and hard. So what I would recommend, if it was my business, probably have a Mexican lawyer from the beginning, write up a contract and have them sign these letters of, I think they're letters of credit. Need to find the translation to Spanish, to English, while you do the next question.
Okay. Yeah, I think we just have time for one more. Are there
Yes.
retail listing fees similar to the US-based supermarkets?
Yeah, actually, they're harder here in Mexico. Basically, they charge you from 16 to 19% for they do their own merchandising. They charge you logistical charges. Just understand something that Walmart started in the 60s in the US. So it took them 30 years to get to Mexico and figure out where could they charge more. So they will charge you for the anniversary, for the annual event, for whatever they think, because they have to increase the margin. But again, in general, will be from 16 to 20% markup or discount that you will get from retail. So that's something that you have to consider in your cost.
Great. Well, thank you. I know that there's a couple unanswered questions. I will send those directly to Marco, and then I can get back to you with those answers. But next week at 9 o'clock, same time, Marco will be here again to go even further into Mexico. And then the following week, he'll be wrapping up the Mexico portion. And so again, I'll send the PDF and I'll send links to those upcoming webinars. Is there anything else you want to add, Marco?
No, basically what we can do is, I'll go again. It was the first one, and there was a lot of information. Where what I can do is just go deeper, probably in these questions. Obviously, cover the points of next webinar, but probably have more time for Q&A.
Yeah.
So if you want to bring it up too, again, we'll try to give it more time. Again, presentation is good, but I think the key questions afterwards are good. And thank you for participating. Usually, we don't have much participation, but again, it was great to reconnect and do the seminars. I love to give them, so I hope they're helpful for you. And thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.